Hey everybody, Phil Davis, Ancestry Lands, ancestrylands.com. Let's bring it all into focus right now. So, I want to talk to you today about sacrifice. Sacrifice, not in the conventional sense of, when we think of sacrifice, we think of sacrifice like as in to withhold, to do without. I want to bring sacrifice into another realm of understanding, meaning sacrifice in the area of devoting yourself to a particular journey or a path. Some way that you're setting your life trajectory on. What's led me up to this point to talk about is, now as 4 years into the land business, selling multiple properties, changing lives, and seeing this long line of stories that are being told, people whose lives I'm affecting through, property ownership. What people see now, as far as in the success of that, is not the same as what it took to get there. Even when I go back to the hospital to work and I talk to other nurses and people see, kind of somewhat the fruits of my labor. I only have to work 4 days a month as a nurse, which is kind of unheard of. And because I've made a big sacrifice in my life, I'm now at a place where I could afford certain luxuries or the ability to kind of take my life instead of going this way. I'm actually can really kind of focus my path in a direction that I want. So when I talk about sacrifice, I mean the same kind of relevant devotion towards that journey, being on the path. A lot of times when people are on journeys or they're on paths in life, they never set out with the understanding that they get along the way. So they're not prepared to make the sacrifice. Typically, people are now looking for opportunities that yield quick results, that yield, short-term outcomes, feel good benefits, and they're not really willing to put in the work that it really takes to kind of get the outcome that they want. They see other people who might be wealthy or successful, and yeah, there is a portion of people in the world who probably have inherited their success or not had to work and strive. But what are you going to do about that? Okay, that's all in life. People are born taller, people are born lighter, they have different color eyes, they have whatever makes us put on a hierarchy value, or things that we think look good. Why is a Mercedes a well-desired car and a Honda Accord is not, compared to the two? If I had to give you two choices, would you take a Mercedes or a Honda Accord? A lot of people probably would take the Mercedes. What makes that a luxury car where, in our minds, we associate a Honda Accord as not being a luxury car? Nothing wrong with a Honda Accord. I had some and I loved them. But when I talk about the sacrifice, I'm going to give you a little bit of what I mean in relevance to that. So we're going to go back 4 years ago, 2018, where my daughter was born, and she's about, coming up on close about to 2 years old. And during that time, I'm working as a nurse. I'm doing the typical trading dollars for hours. I'm investing a lot of my time into, working to make sure that the family is supported. My wife is going to school. She's trying to get her degree. So we're very busy. She's also, I think, we're pregnant with my son now. And what's happening is that I am now sacrificing. And this is the other sacrifice. We're going to talk two sacrifices here. It's the sacrifice of withholding or doing without, taking away or missing. Like you're sacrificing something. You're sacrificing junk food on your diet, to get abs or a six pack or look great for a wedding dress. You're sacrificing eating that food to withhold. And the other sacrifice is like where you put your energy and devotion into, where you remove everything else away to focus in on this one thing, so that it is not a doing without concept. It is literally you are pouring in yourself into this one, this one effort, if you will. I would equate it to the one sacrifice, like we said about, doing without, withholding, taking away, removing that sacrifice of taking something out of your day to day, as opposed to the other sacrifice, like you would say, a person who's a world class athlete, they sacrifice, meaning they go to the gym every day, they do multiple trainings, they do a ton of drills, they are sacrificing, meaning putting in the effort of devoting themselves to becoming the world class athlete. Usain Bolt, for instance, has sacrificed a lot of his time, sacrificing, devoting his time towards being the great sprinter that he is, and it's unheard of how fast he is considering how tall he is. And that is what I'm talking about, sacrificing in a devotion type way, where you are placing your time and effort to in order to yield the results, as opposed to you're withholding, like in the junk food, or dieting metrics, you're withholding certain things. Like if you eat cheeseburgers, you're not eating cheeseburgers now, you're going to eat a different diet in order to yield the fit results. But in that same case where I was working, 12 hours, 16 hours, and I'm doing this 5, 6, 7, 8 days a week. I remember before my son was born, anybody who knows like family leave, paternity leave, if you want to be off for 6 weeks, you have to have a certain amount of hours. I think it's like 1,250 hours working. So I knew I was short in order to get a paid paternity leave, we call it baby bonding or whatever else. So in order to do that, I literally had to work. I worked like 3 days a week. That was part-time, 24 hours. And I had to do like basically like 4 days a week, or 5 days and 4 in the next week, in order to get the hours to have paid time off to be there when my son is born and be off to take care of my wife who was having a second C-section. So I went in and worked 12 hours, 16 hours. I picked up doubles here and there. So I'm literally devoting myself and literally pushing this time in to get this marker, or this qualifier, this 1,270 or 50 hours or whatever else before I needed to request off. I need to get those hours in order to be off and have time with, my wife and take care of my family to get it qualified for paid family leave. So I worked, it didn't matter the days, whatever else didn't matter. I had to do this. My wife was totally supportive. But the thing is that, again, while I was devoting myself to this, I literally sacrificed everything else. It was a withholding of everything else. I didn't get to see my daughter a lot. I didn't get to spend a lot of time with my wife. My wife's pregnant. I don't, that time spent, the baby's, moving, my son's in there kicking around and doing all this extra stuff. Like, I miss those moments. And I think with, we saw in the last couple of years with the way the world has kind of changed, you might be looking at life saying, man, when am I going to get a moment to enjoy life, the life that I'm working for? Think about it this way. You go to school in high school, you go to school, college, and when you get the degree, your mindset is like, I'm going to get a job and life is going to be so much better because I don't have to rely on my parents for money. I don't have to rely on, you just going to be able to be okay. And now we see that the second you get that degree, you now are out of a line going to school. You're one of whatever your graduating class is and one of whatever your total volume of students at your school, that number is. And then you get into another line in life that's way longer. Just imagine, you're sitting in this, you get out of one line and they're like, great. When you have to, like, at the DMV, they're going to call your number. And imagine going up to that line after waiting 2 hours, and then They say, okay, great, fill out this form, and great, we're going to give you this slip, this degree, and then you're going to go into this other line, and it's twice, three times longer than the line you were just in. And you're like, what line is this? They're like, well, that's the line for life. You're like, what? And you see where people are making turns, and some people are going into cliffs and they're falling off of nowhere, and some people are just dropping out, and you see that, man, this is longer and harder, more dangerous than the line I just got out of. So, and you're like, man, when do I get to stop and enjoy, over the hill? There's this shiny area where people seem like they're having fun, but there's not a lot of people over there. How do you get to that better part of life where you can enjoy it, And we might all be sensing that, we're looking for ways with like remote work, side hustles, side gigs, things like that, to find that way to enjoy our day-to-day, to take back control of our lives, and not be, you're now like, man, it doesn't matter how expensive things get, you just cannot get ahead. And like, the whole point of living a life is to enjoy some parts of it. I'm not saying you don't have to work and put in, you got to pay the costs to enjoy the fruits of your labor. But going back to me working, it was just great. My son, I got the hours, I'm working, doing these doubles and 12 hours or whatever I can do. I made the hours literally the day before my son was born, right? Like I'm not even lying to you. Like, he was born the day before he was born, or 2 days before, I had just made the hour cutoff, like right when I was going to go on a leave to get it paid. And when I look back for it, it was I had to work that much just to get off, to be paid while I was off. So I didn't have to go back to work sooner, to work like that. I just had 6 weeks to not work the same way I was working. That didn't mean that, of course, I'm working at that point, I'm making more money, and we have extra money now. We have money saved. So if we had a need or something like that we we needed, car seats or any, all of that money came in and was funding the new baby being here. But guess what now? You start living off that money a little bit more. Now now you're down because you're not working. You're only making what you normally get paid, not the money you're making with overtime. So now I've got to go back out work, because now that money was good and we had all these extras. We got a new baby coming. So now I'm in a vicious cycle. It's like a hamster. You're on that hamster where you're just going, and then you get off and it's like, I didn't really go anywhere. It's like running in place. And when I started the land business, land ownership journey, and what I was first trying to do was just buy land to sell land, to be able to supplement, so I wouldn't have to go to work and constantly keep working more, trading more hours, and missing things. Now keep in mind, my daughter's growing up. She's 15, 16 months. She's 2. There's all this development going on, and having young kids, we're so worried about trying to provide for them that we miss our presence providing for them. We have no presence in our children's lives. We have no presence in our families' lives, because we're work. You get up 6, 7 a.m. You go to work 8, 9. You work 8 hours. You come home 4 or 5. Guess what? You got to cook 2 hours. Kids come home at 3, 4 from school. You're barely catching up. You got to get dinner going. You're still working after you get off your job. And at the end of the day, you shut down to do it over and over again. Then you go, after some time, you go and take a vacation. Well, that don't mean your body's still not exhausted. You might sleep the first day on your vacation just to rest from everything you're doing. Even on the weekends, you get older kids, you got to go to a soccer, this game, that game, you're running around. Oh man, there's like, when do you actually get to enjoy it? You would think having a family is the best thing in the world, and it's the most busiest time that you are, but your kids, you just don't get to spend that time with them. So going into the land business to sacrifice the other sacrifice, when I went into it, it was a way to devote myself to something that the outcome, I was committed to succeeding. The first thing I did was get my mindset into understanding that I needed to know that I was going to hit bumps. I was going to hit, you know, times where it wasn't going to be the best. The vision wasn't clear. I'll give you an example. Traveling from California, Northern California, you might remember a lot 4 or 5 years ago. There were these big Northern California fires. We actually had to evacuate. I mean, the fires were raging so bad, I saw ash coming down, little small embers of ash coming down outside. You had to put a mask. You could just smell smoke in the air. We actually left the Northern California, Sonoma County area to go down past the San Francisco Bridge to like San Mateo just to clear ourselves from the smoke. Our place didn't burn down, but we literally saw, you know, the mountaintops in the back of us, the big hills. They were fire. There were blazes over there. My father-in-law, his area caught fire where he lived. They lived a couple towns over, and he's trying to put out fires in the field. You didn't know where to go. The way to get out of there was like literally you go north or go south. There are back roads to go east because, you know, again, California, if you're looking on this, you know, one side's water, so you can't go, you know, you can't go on that side. You got to go more inland. Well, guess what? The fire's coming from the inland. So you either go to the shore or you try to go south or you try to go around it. You have to go along the coastline. So, you know, during that time, I decided, you know, afterwards, I drove in an RV to see my brother. He lives in New York. Shout out to my brother. Love you very much. Love the family up in New York. And we drove an RV from Northern California all the way, you know, I think it's I-80, to New York. And during that time, I was in Nevada, I think passing by Reno. And at nighttime, I don't know if anybody lives in Nevada, maybe they could, you know, comment or something like that and talk about this, but like a fog set in, and you know, and I drove basically sun up to sundown, and the, you know, a lot of trucks, the 18-wheelers, they're driving through this area, and the fog was so thick when a truck would go by you, their rear lights would just disappear. I mean, like 10 feet of visibility in front of you. And this is like, you know, it's the evening time, sun setting down. It's the first, you know, dusk, if you will, where it's very, the light's almost gone, and it was just disappearing. I was like, hey man, we got to pull over. But when I was driving, my biggest concern was that I didn't want to see a truck or a vehicle stopped, you know, in front of me where I couldn't see because they're braking, you know, literally like you're just going to run smash right into them. So when I say that is that sometimes along the road, that visibility you can't see in front of you, but you got to push through. We stopped and we can't, you know, camped for the night, or, you know, we're in the RV. So we slept for the night. And then in the morning we went back on our journey. You know, I think the way I did it was I drove sun up to sundown, and I stopped and we got food and things like that. But my point in saying that is sometimes on the journey to New York, you know, there was that fog that came in, and we couldn't see in front of us. That didn't mean we were going to head back or we were going to get discouraged on our journey. We stopped, pulled over, and rest for the night, and continued on the next day. So when I say that is that when I started the land business, I started with the mindset of understanding that I was going to have to sacrifice a clear indication that I was going to be successful. Okay, let that sink in. And why, yeah, man, look, I'm dropping gems and stuff like that. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, man. We got over 1K subscribers. You know, there's a lot of action happening right now with the Ancestry Lands movement, the way we're moving things. Like and subscribe. You're always going to get these tidbits from me, and to educate yourself. And I really want to just drop these mindsets about ownership and property, how that gets there. But like and subscribe, man, because I'm giving you guys great content right now. So going back to that sacrifice is that you have to be committed for the bumps. I knew when I was going to start a business, anything I was going to do to veer off from going into the shore, I'm going to clock in and clock out methodology, that no one at that time knew I was going to be successful. My wife had her doubts. My friends and family, it's that you might see it or know it. And I'm not, my friends, I love all my friends and family very much. There's no one that was like, no, don't do it. But you know, you get people who are happy that you're doing something, but they're not very like, man, if you ever need anything, I got you. You know, you don't have people who are really like, yo, let me throw support to make sure you're successful. They're kind of like, you know, maybe he'll be successful, to the point where people were very like kind of surprised that, you know, 4.5 years later, I'm still now doing the land business and very successful at it. You get that like, hey man, I see you still selling properties. Oh man, how's that going? Oh really? Oh okay, cool. You know, you get the indication that these people never thought you would be really successful, or they believe you would be successful, but they really weren't. You know, they weren't invested, and that can be a discourager too as well, to the part of the sacrifice. So when I went into the business, I understood that, hey man, I'm really gonna have to do this and trek alone. You might have someone starting a business with your business partner, but you got to be prepared for your own internal journey. And that's the thing I'm trying to bring home, is that when I went into it, I had to sacrifice the indication of success, that it was going to be a clear outcome, that I was going to be able to be sure that, you know, I was going to be able to do it. Even getting my first property, even after getting that victory, it was like, okay, I got one property. Now, how do I grow this to having over 100 properties now where I'm at? You know what I mean? So it's a matter of the fact that the how do you grow and scale up? How do you take this and make it into the greater success? You know, there are tons of people in my land investing group that I went to learn how to do land investing with. I think it was like 22 of us, and to this day I think there's only myself and one person out of that group. And when I learned this, the cohorts or things like that, they are like, you know, I was on a Monday, there's a group on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and every week there's a new group coming in. So you can imagine that out of 22, 2 people are successful, maybe 1 are still doing it to this day. And not just, you know, they got a property and they're selling it. They actually are doing some numbers where they've changed their own lives. A lot of people don't have that. But what I saw was a lot of people went into it with the mindset of they were looking for a quick outcome. They were not looking at it from the long-term perspective of, I gotta build and grow this and make sure I nurture it. I've got to devote my time to not seeing the end in order to know I need to still keep walking on that road. I'll take it, it's like you're on a destination and you don't see any signs of life. You just see nothing but road, and you're still traveling. But a lot of times people are stopping, they're trying to look and find other indicators to know if they're going to be successful or not. And that's when they'll keep on doing it. As long as they get some feedback, oh, I'm doing this right, I'm going to keep on going, I'm going to keep on moving forward. There's not the mindset of you're going into it to see that you're going to be successful at the end. A lot of people are going in the mindset of they're looking to make sure they're going to be successful. There are other people who are sorry, it's like a little gnat or something. They're looking for indications that, oh, it's going to work. I knew people who they couldn't get one, you know, property in the first month, and they quit. There were other people who got a couple properties, then they quit. They couldn't sell them quick enough, then they quit. You know, they're trying to do something without any, you know, the mentality that they were going to be successful. Maybe that next client or that next buy was coming the next month. But because they didn't have the mindset to be sacrificing, to be devoted towards their journey, they decided when it got a little rough, when the water ran out, or it looked like you were going to run out of water, you know, let me go ahead and go back, you know, go back to where it's safe, go back to home. And I say that to people is my journey on becoming Ancestry Lands, Phil Davis, one generation from the next. This didn't start when Phil Davis was owning the first property. This became a concept after I found Ancestry Lands, the website, the YouTube channel, the the Chamber of Commerce membership, these all came later on the way to the journey. The Melanin Market events that you see me do, education to connecting with other businesses, the posting manager Eric Kennedy and myself, I didn't meet him until I was in year 4 of the business. These my virtual assistants, Marie, Latara, Shayna, Elise, I didn't meet them, the people who, they're working for me, they're providing a value, I'm bringing value to them. I didn't meet them in year 1. I didn't meet them in year 2. None of that happened until I was much further into my journey. So what I'm saying to you is that you have to understand that even now, you see the testimonials. You might have seen the video where, I have up there about Lavelle, him owning, he has 4 properties, but he's now the owner of one of the properties. He's got 4 other properties he's buying from me. There's a gentleman, James, he has a video up there where he's doing a testimonial. He has a 40-acre property that he's buying from me, and he already has a 5-acre property that his family has spoken with his daughter. They're like, man, you have done so much to help our family out where we thought it not possible. I didn't meet them to 2 years into my journey. So when I say that is that, these outcomes, these takeaways, these things I can bring up right now, they're not here on the front end or even when I started my journey. I had to get to that point in order to have that moment to talk to you about. But if I quit earlier in my journey, where would the benefit or where would the opportunity come from? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they still wouldn't have that opportunity. Who knows where James or Lavelle or any of the other 50 owners that had bought properties from us, where their kids or their grandkids are going to benefit from that land. Who knows where later on down the line that land is going to help touch them or do something. I don't know. That could be monumental. But that's the mindset that you have to have. People are going to tell you, about waking up 5 a.m. and you need to do this and do that. And you need to take, this course or this class to have a mindset. I don't think anyone's talking about mindset in far of the sacrifice. I'll give a great example. Michael Jordan, everybody knows about him being cut from his high school basketball team. We're talking about Michael Jordan. And when he got cut, that was part of his journey on the front end of trying out for a team. Now, he knew when he went out for the team, he may not make the team. But his mindset was when he got cut, he went back and spent like 1,000 hours shooting jump shots, working on free throws. He spent his day was devoted to improving or doing things to come back stronger. And then we now know Michael Jordan where he's at, where, is there anything else more to say? But Michael Jordan was a classic example of someone who had to sacrifice devotion into his pathway to be able to, look at what he can leave his children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren. How far does it go down? Now, I'm not saying that you're going to end up becoming a billionaire or uber rich or things like that, but the same scale is afforded to you. You have the same opportunity to go out there and make the same thing happen no matter where you fall at. For some people who are in low wage jobs, making $100,000 a year instead of $20,000-$30,000, that's an improvement in their life. When I started, I didn't think I was going to be where I was at now. I thought I was still going to be a nurse working 3 days a week, just never needing to work overtime. I didn't know I was going to go to working 4 days a month. And the nurses at the hospital, how motivating is that to see a person who's been doing it for 3.5 years, that's a great worker, that still comes to work, and you see them and you're like, man, this dude is really, there's more for me in my life. I thought nursing was the only way. Then I come to find out other people are starting businesses or have businesses, and they're not saying like, I'm going to give nursing up and I'm going to do this, but they are now understanding that it's possible to put more energy into their business, to give them a better lifestyle, to give them a better quality of life. And that's the main thing I'm trying to impart upon you, is that you have to start your journey to be successful understanding that you need to sacrifice. You may not see the end. You may not see any markers that you are going to be successful. But the one thing that you will fail at doing, and guaranteed that you'll fail, is if you stop trying. If you give up at any point in that journey, even if it's at the tail end where you think, oh man, let me just go ahead and go all the way back. That is, for some people on the journey, the part where you're successful, it might always be at the actual end. But if you start and quit at any point, for some people, the journey to success is here. For some, it's like as soon as they start, boom, they take off. For me, it was way down this line, like more than closer to the halfway point. And now I'm seeing the benefit of that success. But a lot of people, if they don't see it by, 10%, 20%, they're gone. And you can't be like that, because you don't know if the success was coming the next day. And even when you get to the point where you're going to be successful, whatever you qualify, again, remember that line now, the DMV line, right? I'm going to bring it all back. Here's how good it is. That's what I'm saying, man. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, because I'm going to bring it right back for you. Remember that DMV line? When you get to this point in your business, like right where I'm at now, where I thought I made it to the end, great. Guess what I got? Good. You got a good business. You got this, you got that going. You got a YouTube channel. But guess what? Now I'm making videos and doing what I'm doing now. That wasn't part of the original part of that journey. When I got to this line, I got a number. Say, hey, great. Fill out this form. You're a business person, entrepreneur. You got some following on social media, AncestryLands.com. Ancestry Lands on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Ancestry Lands LLC, Chamber of Commerce. You got all of that set up. Great. Here's your certificate. Guess what? Get into this other line. And that line's longer, right? Remember that line we talked about, right? You get out of the line in high school. It's the same way. You get out of line high school and college, you get that degree, and guess what? You got to go on that line of life. And even when you get to that next plateau, there's another longer line waiting every time you go up to the next level. So again, I'm only going to be successful as my movement forward. And again, I'm not looking for the ability to qualify or quantify if I'm going to be successful in the future in order to start today. That's my message to everyone. You got to keep moving forward and understand that you are going to not see the road in front of you. Remember I said about the 18-wheelers. You're not going to always be able to see in front of you. What you got to do is stop and pull over to the side. And the next day, you got to get back on the road again. Sometimes in life, you got to pull over and sleep for the night. And the next day, you get back on the road again. All right. But you're not going to see the markers of success. You're not going to see the lines in the road, but you got to figure out how to stay in the middle and keep driving forward. That's the thing I'm trying to impress upon you right now. And I'm hoping that you can take some of these, the stories and the way I do these certain parables to understand what's brought me to this point now. And it is not something that I did was spectacular. What I've done is something that, again, with the right mindset and the right support system, when I say that, I mean is that you have resources that you can draw from. You are seeking out knowledge like this video here and other videos that I've done to draw inspiration to say, hey man, this could be possible. Just like the nurses at my hospital see that there's more to life than just being a nurse. You can accomplish other things without having to work doubles. So they don't have to be committed to trading their hours for dollars all their lives. There's more you can do in this world, other than the thing you got a degree for. I have a nursing degree, but I don't have a degree in business, and I've learned to become a businessman. And I'm thinking that's something that everyone can take and draw some inspiration for. So again, folks, like, subscribe to the video. Phil Davis, your boy, Ancestry Lands, AncestryLands.com. We're talking from one generation to the next, man. One generation to the next. Again, so even Ancestry Lands, it's all talking about that journey. What you got to do is get to that point and understand there's a line behind. Again, sacrifice, as you got the sacrifice in life as a devotion, not sacrifices and taken away, okay? Remember that, folks. Like, subscribe to this video. Thank you guys for listening, and I hope you enjoy. Stay tuned for the next one. Phil Davis, take care.